Welcome back to the NoFX podcast. I am your host, Izlain, and once again, I am joined by The Rev, who was kind enough to come jump on here so that we could get something going, because this topic at hand today is something that is relatively time-sensitive in the sense, like, it was announced, a week and a half ago now at this point, I think, and most content creators have already gotten something out for it. I was trying to do this a few days ago, but then I ended up having stuff come up, so whatever the case, we are here. We're going to talk about some stuff, normal stuff. So, Rev, before we get started, how's things going? How you been?
It's going pretty well. Just moving out of my place into a new place soon, so been packing, doing some stuff like that. How about you?
Nothing really. Just been doing this stuff, recording, editing, all that's. Been trying to get into play some video games, but I've been kind of busy. And then I've also taken on becoming a DM or GM, I guess, for a Shadowrun campaign, which me and none of my friends have ever done. So it's been kind of a humongous learning experience. It's very complicated compared to D&D, despite the fact that I thought I'd go in and be like, hey, this is easy. Yeah, it's I played all the video games, and like I think that was running off 5e, but I decided to go with 6e because it's the newest version. It came out in 2019. You'd think it'd be good, but I guess there's two other versions of it that came out to like revise it. So it's like I'm on an even worse version. So I'm just sticking with it because it was the only one I could find for free, for a PDF for free. I couldn't find the newer ones without having to pay money, and I was just like, I want to try and see that before I pay anybody for anything. So, but I've made a very funny storyline that, because parts of the real world are still around in that world. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but
it's at all.
It's got real world locations. Seattle is a big one. Berlin is a big one. The DC area. But California exists still. Parts of Vegas, other things. And Canada and the U.S. are basically like one country now, which is bad for you, but I guess good for us. I don't know.
No, it's in the future.
It's only currently in the 6 world, or 6E. It's 2080, so it's not that far removed from where we are right now, and it feels very similar to the kind of shit we're dealing with in our country right now too, which is ironic. But I'm able to just pull shit off Google Maps and be like, this is the region we're working with, and then I just have to make maps for like floor plans and things and other stuff, where they're going to be fighting and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of cool because it's real world. So I'm actually using real locations that we all know of because we all live in the area. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, moving on. Let's get into the topic at hand, and that is 3 minutes in. Now you get to know what we're going to talk about. It's the bracket system, and it probably wasn't a surprise because everybody and their mother's been talking about this for the last couple weeks or whatever since it actually got revealed. WOTC, if you don't know, has kind of essentially become the rules committee for Commander proper, because the rules committee, after making those bans last year that were very controversial, got run out of town with death threats and other things and said, you know what, we're washing our hands of this, goodbye. And Wizards basically stepped in and said, okay, you know what, we will, since we recognize this format, we will help try to guide it as best we can. And all of us were like, well, maybe CDH is over, maybe this thing's over, maybe EDH proper is over and we're fucked. But Gavin and some of the other people that are involved have made a beta of what they're calling the Commander brackets. So this is a matchmaking system that they're trying to use and eventually, kind of codify strength levels. So the 1 to 10 that we've been kind of using for years now, which I haven't been using. Nobody I know uses it anymore because it's been proven to be 100% inefficient, because everybody says my deck's a 7 because they don't want to have a 3, and they're trying to say they're not CDH, so they're 7. They're the top end of like high-end casual or whatever, and it just never really worked. So the bracket system here is meant to be conversation starter at tables, so you can have that rule 0 conversation and say, hey, my deck fits into this, because there's more defined parameters of what each thing is, instead of just giving you a tool set where you roughly just guess and say, I got a 7. This is saying if you have this many of this type of card in your deck, it's automatically a 3 or a 4 or a 5. And I think that's going to be helpful overall. I don't know. What do you think generally before we dive in?
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's 1 to 5. It's much more condensed. I don't know if I'd place everything where it should be placed, but I mean, it is beta. They're testing this out. I don't see much of a difference between the optimized and CDH for when you're self-bracketing. I mean, I can see where like CDH should be more of a 4, and then TEDH, like the tournament versions of it, should be number 5. But I mean, that's a bit of here and there. I mean,
It's a thing where you could call
Overall,
it maybe 5+ or like 5.5 or something, maybe, or even just add a 6 to say like in a tournament experience, this is what it is. But I think people who play in tournaments already know that that's a difference already. So
I'm not sure about the 1 either. I don't think I've ever ran into a real life 1.
No, me either. So before we get into what the actual brackets are and the reasoning that they have here, there is one piece of terminology that sticks out that nobody's going to know unless they've read the article and paid attention to this news. And that's game changers. Game changers are basically cards that they're saying these are definitively cards that like either stop people from playing the game or put you so far ahead that you are getting a bigger advantage than everyone else if they don't have the same sort of resources. So they've given us a list of game changers, and they've also said that these are kind of cards that are being watched as far as their power level and whether or not they might be something that could be banned in the future or restricted or something, yada yada. So these are cards that they're not saying they're trying to ban them. They're just saying that, like, hey, these cards, like, very powerful. These might be something that gets banned at some point if XYZ thing happens. Right. They can be in some regards.
Yeah.
So, starting with white, the list is Draneth Magistrate, Enlightened Tutor, Sarah's Sanctum, Smothering Tide, and Trouble in Pairs. Can basically agree that all of these are fine as far as being considered game changers because they all do something. Like I said, the majority of them are either put you far ahead or set your opponents far back. Draneth stops you from casting your commander, can stop you from casting stuff from your grave, from your library, from exile, etc. So it definitely does a thing, and it does change a game as soon as it gets played, especially if you get that down on a turn 1 and you're going first. No one else is casting their commander until it's gone. Granted, in CDH, there's a lot of removal, so it's not as crazy as it could be in like a more casual format. But
these are for like decks 1, 2, 3 power level, right? So, or bracketing.
Well, yeah, no, you're correct. Yeah, 4 and 5, they don't care about these. But I am just bringing up the fact, because we play CDH the most, that like I can agree that some of these are definitely game changers. Enlightened Tutor, it's just a tutor. It's good. It's one of the stronger tutors in the format, so I get why it could be a game changer in a more casual deck. Sarah's Sanctum, it's the white guy's cradle. It doesn't tap for as many creatures as you have, it taps for as many enchantments as you have. It's a fucking slam dunk in Sithis and other Enchantress decks. There are a lot of casual Enchantress decks, so this is something that could put someone quite a bit ahead in the mana generation department in casual settings. Same with Smothering Tithe, because everybody draws cards, everybody's drawing cards on their turn, and then potentially other cards if they have, card draw spells, so it's doing the thing. Trouble in Pairs, I see as more of a CDH staple, because it's kind of a catch-up mechanic that really does a lot of work for white decks in the format, especially like, X, white X, like just 2 color decks. But in casual settings, it's probably not doing a whole lot for you, but you'll draw some cards here or there, so it's a thing. But I agree they're all fairly consistent as far as being powerful cards.
Yeah.
Do you want to read off the blue ones?
Yeah, for blue we have Cyclonic Rift, which I think is a format staple. Expropriate, Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship, Rhystic Study, Thassa's Oracle, Urza's Lord High Artificer, Mystical Tutor, and Jin Gitaxis Core Augur. I like how in the bracket system they say that you can't, like say for 3s, which I think is probably the average experience of people's decks.
Yeah.
It's not that there is no game changers, but you can have up to 3 game changers.
Right.
And I can see people running Psych Rift as a one-off in their deck, and it's not going to be deck defining or whatnot. Right. Same with something like Rhystic Study. If you have one of the game changers and it's a Rhystic Study in your deck, I mean,
it does put you pretty far ahead of everybody because Rhystic Study is just good no matter what's happening. Yep. But no, 100%, it's not the thing that's winning you the game, deck, maybe. Right. Yeah.
I get that. I can see it not being played in bracket level 2 decks, for instance, where people are playing Bearer Tribal. So,
yeah, I think the free counter spells are fine in higher tiers. I don't really see a ton of play in more casual settings, but I don't play a ton of casual anymore either, so I'm kind of not really speaking to the majority of people. But Thassa's Oracle I don't think is seen playing in casual either, but it might.
Merfolk Tribal, where there's no combo piece with it, sure.
Yeah, Maybe. Urza, I can see that being kind of problematic in casual just because it can get a lot of advantage early, but I don't know that it's really, something that could be on a more of a ban list. I don't think it's changing the game that much, but I've never seen one played in casual. I've always played against it in CEDH. The tutor, it's another tutor. I mean, the expropriate, yes, you can get a lot of turns, but most people know better than to give you turns. They give you permanents, and that does that. You just get your one turn. It can be cool in something like Yuriko and higher end gameplay just because it does a lot of damage and gets you some extra turns, possibly. Jink attacks, it gets played all over, but it's just something that sucks to play against, so I can see why it's on the list.
No, 100%. Like, I run Expropriate in my Yuriko deck, but I'm also running Show and Tell, so I feel like Show and Tell might maybe be put into this list as well. I know it's everyone gets it, but
they probably had a lot more cards on this, and they just said, okay, well, this is beta, so let's just limit it to a few and see what happens. I mean, some of the Eldrazi's and things might have gone here too that are going to see play in some of those lower tiers as well. But moving on to black, we've got Bolas' Citadel, Demonic Tutor, Imp Seal, Opposition Agent, Turgrid, Vampiric Tutor, and Adnos. So you got 3 of the best tutors in the game. Obviously, they are game-changing because if you get 2 of them, Wishclaw could also probably be on here because it's just as good. I mean, giving it away sucks, but like, if you have any other tutor and you're going for a 2-card win con, it just gets the thing done. Now, in the lower tiers, these are just, bar none, the best tutors to get whatever you want, but it may not be game-breaking. Op Agent, hard to play against, sucks to play against. Turgrid, absolutely sucks to play against. Adnos, obviously the premium win con in black. Bolas' Citadel is a lesser played version, but like still can be as good as an Adnos and shuffle through your deck and win a game. So these are probably all, I mean, outside of Turgrid maybe, I think all of these are absolutely spot on.
Turgrid's just annoying to play against.
Yeah, she's the Jin Kataxis of black, basically.
Friendly reminder for casuals to run more removal.
Yes, please.
I can see Turgrid, especially being as a commander, being a pain in the ass. If it's one of the 99...
I've played against it as a commander in more casuals or high power settings, and it is miserable because nobody is running the removal.
Appropriate removal.
I'll run through red since it's so short, and then you can do green multicolor. Yeah. So red, we've got Jessica's Will and Underworld Breach. Two bombs. Jessica's Will can potentially get you up to 7 mana, maybe more. And then usually you're getting 3 or 4, maybe 5, but you're going to get some decent amount of red mana, and then you flip 3 cards off the top. Notably, you can't play those cards if Adranith is out, but I think you know that already. And your mileage may vary. You're either going to whiff off some bangers, or you're going to whiff off a whiff, or you're going to rip off, something where you got one of those cards is good and the rest suck, and you get some advantage, you get mana, and maybe you don't even really need the card advantage. You're just digging to see what else you can get. And then you go, okay, well, I got the mana to do my combo now, and you win. In the case of 2s and 3s, it's probably just a lot of value. And in that case, I actually don't even see it as being that big of a deal. I don't think it's something that should even be on a watch list. Like, yeah, you're getting a mana and a card advantage, but you paid 3 mana into it to maybe net like 2 mana, and you're getting 3 cards you have access to, but like sometimes they don't do shit. And if you're in casual, a lot of them are going to probably be not the thing you're looking for. So I don't see it as being that bad. Underworld Breach, also not something that like necessarily wins you a game in a casual setting. It's just, I've literally put it in casual decks just because it's a good recursion tool, and you might only get 1 card out of it.
I'm noticing that there is a card that I think should be on the red one that isn't. And notably, especially not, I mean, you're not going to see this in CDH at all, but notably you will see it at casual tables a lot, and it changes the game. Sneak Attack.
Yeah, I can see that. That can be a thing that will end a game, or at least like alpha strike one person.
Well, especially if you're just tossing out Eldrazi's, right?
Yeah,
which is a casual thing to do.
Oh, well, I mean, if that's the case, then let's take a look at my Joda list, and I'll list off like 50 things that are just crazy when you can cast them for Ruberg. But yeah, we'll leave that.
Oh, and worth missing white. I mean, it is a CDH staple, but Savines.
Honestly, I think that's a really good recursion card, especially because you can get up to 3 things back to the field. Yeah. Casuals are playing Sun Titans. Like it's a better, it's almost a better Sun Titan. I mean, you don't get the body, but like it's a pretty good Sun Titan.
And looking at like what they want for casual turns 9 through 12 or higher,
right?
You're going to have mana to do it twice or cast it originally and then cast it from your graveyard on your turn, like same turn, get 3 things back.
Right. Yeah.
So
they are limited by like the size of them or whatever, but like still.
Yeah.
So next up is green.
We got Survival of the Fittest, Vorinclex Voice of Hunger, and Guy's Cradle. Vorinclex specifically is the one that doubles your mana and permanently locks or 1 turn stuns your your opponent's lands. Or
right.
I don't know if stun's the appropriate terminology in this game.
It's not, but it makes sense. That's stun counters are on creatures. Same idea. It's not. It's also the OG Vorinclex. It's not the newer one that like is doubling season. So
yeah,
it's a classic case of putting yourself ahead and putting your opponents behind, all in one card.
And survival, I can see. I mean, it's an unlimited tutor as long as you have a creature card in your hand, right?
It can be just
tutoring over and over and over. Yep, that as well. And Guy's Cradle, I think, goes without say. I mean,
every single green deck would run it if it wasn't like $800 or whatever it is now.
The best land, probably the best land in the game.
It absolutely.
Or a contender in the top 3.
I was going to say, top 3 or top 5. Yeah. Tolarian Academy might be better just because it's blue, but yeah.
Banned.
Right. And also,
banned, we don't have to worry about that, so.
Would have been perfectly fine in a dockside meta because you're just like, okay, you get this much and I'll tap for the same amount and counter all of your shit, you know?
No, exactly. And then we go to, do we want to go multicolored? Because, I mean, green has a very small list. And
yeah, you go ahead and roll
multicolor. These are all commanders, notably. Kinnan and Bonder's Prodigy, I think we know why. I think the Kinnan players should look at themselves and feel a bit of shame. Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow. Oso, I mean, both of us are pilots of Yuriko. I think we know why she's there. The Commander Ninjutsu to get past commander attacks is probably the biggest part.
I think it's weird that they don't put Derevi on here, though, because that was the OG, like, get around commander attacks creature, and it's still not played as a commander as much, but it still is. It's pretty busted still, I'd say. And then it also is a win con in the 99 and the Agilas and other decks, so like it just enables a lot of shit, even in casual.
Yep. Then we go to Winota, Joiner of Forces. We've all probably played, if you've been in CDH for any amount of time, more than like 2 or 3 months, you've probably played against Winota. And then Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, which I don't think should be on this list at all.
But it doesn't let you play things without being taxed. It's mean.
But it makes you pay 1 more mana in a casual game that's going to be running 9 or 10 turns.
Yeah. No, I
make your stuff cheaper as well. I get it, but
I think Kinnan and Yuriko are more problematic than the latter two as far as casual goes. However, I would
have liked to see Najila on this list here.
I was thinking that, and maybe even Kenrith, because both of them cheat the multicolor facet by being monocolored on their face, but having the Wooburg activated abilities. And Najila, like, by herself, with no help, even in casual, will just run the table over eventually with soldiers. And Kenrith just has, like, I can win any way I want if I can make infinite mana.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to say that Golos can become unbanned and be put on this list under the multicolor.
I agree with that, because as soon as they limit his game changers, he is no longer a problem in casual, and he was never a problem in competitive. And I literally have one sitting right over here in an altar sleeve that's beautiful, and I want to put it back together and play it, so please.
I have one sitting in my closet right now in a card box. Waiting for
it was absolutely my favorite 5-color deck, and I will it got replaced by Joda because it was a Joda list to begin with, and then it went to Golos because Golos was just like better, and then it went back to Joda because Golos got banned, and then I was just like, okay, I'm leaving it casual, and that's that. If Golos comes back, I will leave my Joda casual and then make a fully CDH Golos, but. Last but not least, we have colorless. Let's run through these real quick. They don't need a ton of discussion. It's Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, The One Ring, Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, which is notably a land, Tritosphere, Grim Monolith, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Diamond, Mana Vault, and Glacial Chasm, also a land. So the 2 lands, I get Tabernacle. It taxes everyone for their creatures, otherwise they get sacrificed. That sucks to play against in any format. I get it. Glacial Chasm doesn't see play in higher tiers because it's just not a thing. In Pillow Fort decks in casual, it's great because it keeps people from being able to attack you. So that makes sense. Ancient Tomb, that one I don't even know that it's really a thing because it dings you every time. Yes, it gives you mana advantage, but you're hurting yourself, and that could contribute to you losing, especially if you're not playing with combos. So I don't really see that as being an issue. You also mentioned Trinisphere for reasons.
Yeah, Trinisphere, I mean, I get that it slows people down, but when you're playing casual, when you're playing big stompy, when I think casual, I think big stompy green. That's the first thing that comes to my head. I know
Big
it's not
ass
all
dragons
casual.
and other shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not stopping anybody. I mean, it makes you pay 3 mana for spells that are less than 3 mana, right?
Or a Soul Ring.
It's not, yeah, or Soul Ring. So, oh no, your Soul Ring is going to cost you 3.
You already play 3 mana rocks. Yeah, you don't care.
Yeah, it's not going to stop your what's that one card that all the casuals love? Colossal Dreadmaw. It's not going to stop that coming down. It's not going to stop your big mana commander from coming down. It can, I guess, slow a bit if you're playing against a storm deck, but they don't want like big combos and stuff in their 3 power stuff anyways. So
right. Well, and that's why like the One Ring, obviously that's problematic anywhere. But then like the Chrome Mox and the Mox Diamond, like they have an appropriate like penalty for playing them. So like I don't see them as being a big deal. But I would never play them in casual anyway. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So I guess
find it weird that
Grim Monolith is also kind of like it's on the reserve list, so like a lot of people don't have access to it. So I can see that's why it's here.
One that I think is missing from here, if they're going to play it this way, is Mishra's Workshop.
Or like Metal Worker, something that like can just make you a ton of mana for just playing artifacts, for playing Urza and casual. Exactly. There's some stuff like that. Also, like what's another good like colorless land? Like I mean, almost they could probably look at Urza Saga, because that could not only get you, mana acceleration, but then can make you bodies, but then also can go get you like a Esper Sentinel or whatever casual people are playing. That could be something to look at.
A big surprise I don't see on here is Sensei's Divining Top.
So do you think that... well, yes, from a competitive standpoint, like that combos with Bolas' Citadel, which is right here on the list, but...
Well, not only like, from a competitive standpoint,
just
but
because
from
of the advantage?
Unfun in casual. Because it takes so long to resolve stuff like it. Like the same reason
it does if you're playing like Elsha or Joyra in casual and being that guy, but like otherwise I don't think it's
I'm thinking of it from like a fun perspective from a casual table.
Well, then what about Counterbalance, Mr. Counterbalance? That doesn't take forever to resolve, but it also...
I'd say Counterbalance is pretty unfun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
I love it. No.
Counterbalance for if you have the right setup for Counterbalance, like once again with the Sensei's Top. Right. But I think of it from like the modern perspective, why they had it banned in modern. I think it still is banned. Or is it banned in Legacy or something?
I think it is banned in one of those. It's banned
in one of the other formats, but it's just because it takes so long to do anything with resolving, because like someone casts a spell. Hold on, let me pay 1 and look at the top. It's
banned
3.
in modern and Legacy both.
And it's an amazing card for 1 mana.
No, it is. I'm not doubting that it is a powerful card for a low cost, and it has a powerful effect that is reusable throughout the whole game, unless you happen to throw it on top and get wheeled away or shuffled for some reason. Unless you have something else, it really requires another card to make it good, where a lot of these just are good by themselves. So I think that might be the reason.
A lot of them require another card to make good.
I mean, none of the tutors. Dranith doesn't. No. Smothering Tide doesn't. Breach does, yeah. Jessica's Will doesn't. Adnos does, sort of, but not really. It usually gets you the stuff, but Thoracle, yes, it does. But Rhystic is good by itself. All the counter spells got good by themselves. Like the majority of these are pretty good by themselves.
That's fair. There are a few ones that aren't.
But I think honestly that's enough time spent on the game changers. Moving on to the official Commander matchmaking system beta, the Commander brackets from WOTC themselves. So as we said, it is a 1 through 5 scale instead of 1 through 10, which does cut out a ton of bullshit that didn't need to be there. And really, what we've talked about so far with the game changers only affects tiers 1, 2, and 3. And as we already said, we've never really run into a true tier 1 in our lifetime, but we know that they have to exist. Anything that's worse than a precon, I have not played against. I cannot think of one. And I knew some people who loved to play janky casual, and it still would have been a 2, at least. So 1 is, quote, exhibition. It's your ultra casual commander deck, which ultra casual to me is a precon. So I don't know how there is anything lower than this, but this is the system that they decided to go.
It's the chair tribal decks. That's
what they say.
Is sitting in a chair,
or ladies facing left, or muscular men in tights, or whatever the fuck. Turtle tribal, I guess, would probably be not. There are some things that exist that people do just to be creative, and yes, that's fun and great, but like, good luck trying to find a whole table where you can sit down and have that experience. Most people are going to be on 2s or 3s, unless you're playing competitive, and then it's going to be even worse. So you're not probably going to be doing this. But anyway, as it says here, it has no mass land denial or extra turns in the deck, period. No 2-card infinite combos, so this is purely battle cruiser. No game changers, which anything on that list is not going to be in these decks. However, if you're playing pure battle cruiser, you're probably not running any of that stuff anyway. This is going to be everybody wins with combat, and that's it. It says few tutors, and by tutors, I'm thinking they're meaning stuff that's on the game changers, but they're saying, going and having like a cultivate or any sort of land tutor, not a big deal. Oh, notably, they don't seem to care about OG duels, they don't care about fetch lands, and they don't care about shocks, and they don't care about any of the other dual lands that exist in the game that come in untapped, that are very good, that we play in CDH. That's not on this at all. So I would argue, and I've been doing this for a long time, that if you're playing casual, you should still optimize your land base to its best standard, because having a poor land base on top of shitty cards just adds to a bad experience. Having a good mana base will, if you can't afford the OG duels, I get it. I don't own any of them either, but proxies exist. Most people don't care. You can also get high quality made proxies that nobody can tell are not real, and just play with them because you're playing for fun. You're not playing in tournaments, right? So who cares?
Yeah, or you go with the nice alternative art Etsy proxies, and
you can do that, or you can also just choose to not run those, only run the shocks, only run fetches, only run other dual lands. There are so many good dual lands that don't come into play tapped that can still give you a very good mana base to work with your jank.
Yep.
Moving on to 2. This is the core experience, the average current pre-constructed deck. So this is WOTC saying that they purposely build 2s. Has no mass land denial, the same. It does not have any weighted chain extra turns. So you may run an extra turn spell or 2, but you can't. There's no way for you to loop those with like an Archaeomancer or something. Still no 2-card infinite combos, so you're still most likely running people over with combat. There's still no game changers, and it's still few tutors. So this basically just opens up the idea that you could be playing a time warp.
You can run time warp.
You can run a time warp, a time spiral, whatever the ones are. There's one that makes you take 2 extra turns. That one's probably not allowed. But all the other ones that just say take an extra turn. Yeah. There's the one Alrund's Epiphany makes you some birds. It gets exiled, so like that's cool. That kind of stuff, no big deal. There's still no limit on stuff that's like wheels, like Time Twister and stuff that is power 9, but you can still play it in this. So not a lot changes here. But their example is that it's a precon deck. I looked through, so since this happened, Moxfield, as great as they are, has actually already gone in and made some changes to their code to where these brackets like appear on your lists, but also in your list itself shows which cards are actual game changers with a little denotation with a little symbol next to it. So you can instantly look and see, and for me personally, like all of my CDH decks were 5s. But I did have some casual decks that were listed as 4s, which I would have not thought they were that high due to whatever the case is. And then all my casual decks otherwise were 3s. We were trying to look at things to make real world examples. Unfortunately, we don't have anything for 1s from our own personal collections, but Rev had a couple 2s. So we pulled one up that we could talk about real quick just to give you guys a real life example of what a 2 would look like that you maybe built yourself. So if you want to talk about that, Rev.
Yeah, it's my Bears deck. It's the deck that it's a Eula, Queen of the Bears. It has a bunch of bears in it. I mean, it has a bunch of changelings in it. It's the deck I play against brand new players when I give them a different deck to play, and I go, here, you want to feel good about playing a 3? I'm going to play this 2, and you can have some fun and maybe get them into the hobby. It's that level of deck. It's, oh no, there's a bunch of big bears coming stomping towards you.
Right. So as it stands, 0 game changers. Do you even have I see you got Cultivate and Kanama's Reach, which technically are tutors.
Yeah.
But no fetch lands, nothing like that. Are you running no, you're not even the oh God, Sakura Tribe Elder. I don't even see that in here. So yeah, not a lot of tutors, just basically mana. But I mean, you've got some dorks. So yeah, your mana comes down. Most of your cards are 2 to 5 mana in your creature base. I mean, it's not. You got a fairly low curve, but yeah, I mean, this is just put out bears and smash face.
It has a bunch of fighting in it.
Probably die to board wipes, right?
Oh, 100%. There's no invulnerable things to make things invulnerable.
Just Dolmen Gate. Dolmen Gate. Love that card. Yeah. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Swing away. They're not going to die. We'll throw, by the way, any of these lists that we do mention today, I'll try to put in the show notes so that we have... you guys can follow along and check out what we're talking about, so you can get kind of real world examples of what these sort of tiers would look like. Is there any other 2 deck you want to share just for shits and gigs, or should we move on?
Sure. Some reason my Felden deck is coming up as a 2.
What would you rate it as? A 3?
A 3, but he makes copies of creatures in your graveyard, except they're artifacts.
Right. I mean, yeah, that was always a like dump. Try to figure out how to mill or use like Faithless Looting type effects, or
mine's like running a tally, like the oldest tally and the Phyrexian Triniform and some of the stuff that you'd really like to get
busted
out there.
Shit. Yeah.
But I mean, it's still pretty casual,
right? I mean, if you're not running a bunch of tutors or ways to, you're just basically depending on like getting those cards in your hand and finding a way to discard them, or have them come out in the field and get removed. Right, the thrills of the world. Yeah,
Faithless Looting. Yeah.
So again, we'll have links to these so you guys can check them out. But yeah, very very casual, nothing crazy, not doing anything. I have decks that I feel fit into that. It's just that maybe I have a game changer in it, or maybe I have that late game 2-card, not even a 2-card combo, more just like having that late game like I can Crater Hoof and just win. But I like decks that I feel like would be 2. Like I have a Hamza list that's fully casual. I feel like it would be a 2, but it's a 3, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I'd have to look at it. But you know what I'm saying, like decks that I feel are like super casual, that like they don't have infinite combos, they don't do anything. Like why is this a 3? I don't know, but. So I guess moving on, 3 is considered upgraded, and this is beyond the strength of an average precon deck. Still contains no math land denial, still does not allow for chaining of extra turns, but can have late game 2-card infinite combos. They may describe in the article, which I read a while ago, but I'm not going to go look at right now. I don't know what they're considering late game. My brain says like probably turn 7, 8, 9 in that ballpark. It's probably late game.
I was probably going to go with 8, 9, 10, something around there. But.
Sure, because I think in Commander or in CEDH, late game is like turn 6, probably. Most of the time. Granted, we like to play stuff that isn't necessarily at the top end of the meta, so we do have some 10 and 12 turn games. That just got stacksy or things happen to prevent people from comboing until it finally somebody got through, which that you have to expect that can happen as well. And obviously in casual, when that happens, you have like a turn 15 game or something because just people couldn't attack each other or whatever, or just didn't have good starts or too many board wipes, whatever the case may be. But this does allow for some extra stuff you can do, and it does allow for 3 game changers. So a lot of my decks that are in that 3 are casual. I don't have any competitive decks that go that low, but in casual, I've got like an Elf Ball list with Miara and Numa from
Miara. Yep.
So I liked it because the elves are mostly green, but there is some black support. You got your Abomination of Llanowar, you've got your Lathril, which a lot of people liked Lathril for Elf Tribal. I like her, but I feel like yeah. I mean, there's probably more. I haven't updated my casual decks in a while, but like you got some black stuff, and then I am running. Okay, so game changer wise, I'm running 1, which is Demonic Tutor, and the only reason I'm running Demonic Tutor is because sometimes you just need to get that Regal Force or that Crater Hoof or that. You've done all this setup, you've got the board, you just need that Crater Hoof to win, or a Triumph of the Hordes to get through with Trample and Infect, or Elvish Guidance to just make I'm not running Gaia's Cradle in this because I felt like that was stupid because I don't own one and this is casual, but Elvish Guidance is a 3 mana enchant land that does The same thing, but for elves only. But literally almost all of my creatures are elves, so it's like a Gaia's Cradle in this deck. And it still feels appropriately casual, so... Yeah, I mean, there's just a couple things here and there that are black, and then the rest of it is just a regular-ass deck. This does have a 2-card combo, which I don't know if they know it or not, but...
Naughty.
I'm running Staff of Domination, so I don't think it's 2-card, it might be more, but... No, it's just 2, because as long as you can get Elvish Archdruid or, what's her name, Marwyn, to a significant amount of mana, Staff of Domination just goes infinite. I think you need 6. Yeah, because it's 5 to tap and draw, and then 1 to untap it. So if you can get either one of them up to 6 and have a staff out, you just draw your deck, and then play all your creatures, and then Finale or Triumph or Craterhoof. So, yeah. So that's an example of like a deck that's like finely tuned, it's on a theme. Like, so, this without the couple things and without the combo, just I think probably drops down to a 2 anyway. But because I've added a couple things that make it a little bit better, and notably I have one with all those things quite a bit. So the deck does the thing. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I have a Nexus Aristocrats list, a Goblin list, and then that same Hamza list, which that one also only has 1. It has Enlightened Tutor. So 1 game changer. That's what makes it a 3. It's just because I have those game changers in. So if I took that Enlightened Tutor out, this is a 2 as well. So that goes to show you how finicky the system is that literally 1 card being a game changer. But Enlightened Tutor in this deck does not win me the fucking game. Period. End of story. Will not win the game for me. What does it get? What does it get that's an artifact? Nothing. Like, I could get the Ozolith or a Great Henge. Wow. I mean, I guess that's giving me more mana. Maybe drawing me some cards, maybe doing this or that, but like, is it really winning you the game? Enchantments, like
no.
Growing Rights, maybe that's kind of your
shit.
Yeah. It's not winning you the game. So I think the system definitely has room for some improvement because like,
well, that's why it's in a beta, right?
Exactly, and that's why I'm trying to give some sort of constructive feedback as well because I look at these decks and I'm like, this is a 2 to me, but they're saying it's that. What sort of decks do you have in the 3 range?
I can't find a single deck that I have that's in the 3 range. They're all 2s, or they're all higher.
All right, so you are truly a casual or all the way casual or all the way competitive kind of guy. Sounds like
pretty much. I mean, I think my Conrad deck would be a 3. It's not rated though. It's defaulted to a 3. Yeah, like I mean, I don't think I have a game changer in this list though because it's mono black. And what are the
well, there's the little symbol next to the things that are game changers. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there is one. Although, I mean, it has an infinite combo in it.
Well, they're not denoting, notably on Moxville, they're denoting what the game changers are with a little symbol, but they're not notating 2-card combos. And that may be something they're working on because you might, like, it may be the system can't find those, so you have to self-declare because you can say it does have a combo. Like, I can say that on that Elf Ball deck, but I can't say it on Hamza because there's just not one. And then the only reason it's there is because there's an Enlightened Tutor. So
it has a Mind Crane combo in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so then it's automatically a 3. You just have to self-declare it.
Yeah.
Because of the combo.
So, I mean, there's an example of one.
And then also, as we said, it's beta. So, Moxfield is being cool about trying to add this extra stuff to the system. And I'm appreciative of that. But they're working out the kinks just the same, and all of this could change. So, but moving on, we're up to now what is called Optimized. It's at bracket 4, and it's High Power Commander. It's time to go wild. It says no restrictions other than the ban list. And I'm just going to read 5 because it's CDH, and it says high power with a very competitive and metagame-focused mindset. Also, no restrictions other than the ban list. So these two are basically the same thing. And this is a thing that people have been arguing about for years, that there's high power and then there's CDH. Or there's high power and even another thing in between, which a lot of the people I have interacted with over the years call fringe, which is like the bottom end of CDH, but better than high power, because high power is basically like unimpeded casual without all the free stuff without all the most powerful things. So they kind of self-impose. And then Fringe is like, well, we're not self-imposing, but we're just playing shitty commanders and trying to make them good, which is the jank and the things that we enjoy doing, because you gotta, like, nobody is gonna know if something's actually CDH unless they try and build it. Like, you see something with potential, build it, play it, prove it. And if you can prove
I'm
it,
a solid
great.
Fringe. I'm a solid Fringe player.
I agree with that, and that's
With
why
everyone that's seen like my Mogus deck on the stream.
Well, and that's why I brought our particular group together, because me and Joey are kind of the spikes. Kirk can go between the two, and you're kind of more of the jank guy. And Kirk also likes jank. I like jank too, but like my jank is still like highly. I always hyper focus it into like a certain thing, and then it's like it just plays a janky combo, but like everything else around it, the shell is good. So like we all have our own little play styles and we work well together, and that's why I like it. And as much as we get hate on comments or on Reddit or whatever about, oh, this isn't CDH, or oh, you misplay or whatever, like we try to be friendly. We try to, let people roll shit back because we're not playing in a tournament. And this is trying to show people like how you can play decks that aren't maybe the top end, but still compete with the top end. Because how many times have we played a jank deck against some of the top end decks and still pulled out a win? It happens. I think with the difference between 4 and 5 here is basically, well, let's just give you an example. So I have a deck that I consider casual that is, according to them, a bracket 4. And I can see to some extent why, but in other cases I can't. So it's my Joda deck. And so it's the older Joda, the 4 mana one that lets you pay Wooburg rather than whatever the mana cost is or spells you can cast. So you can cheat in stuff that costs 10, 11, 12, 13 mana for 5 mana. Makes it super busted, but like I know why it's a 4. It's because I have too many game changers in it. But like when you look at the deck, which in the show notes, check it out, follow along if you will. My game changers are Kinnan, which we've already said, yeah, that can be busted. Demonic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, Vamp Tutor, Psych Rift, and Rhystic Study. Well, you got to have some kind of card draw, and I'm literally packing no card draw spells, no card draw anything except for Rhystic Study. As you said earlier, if it's the only thing in your deck, like, is it really that big of a deal? Probably not. No. The tutors, yes, I am running 3 tutors, all arguably best in class, but they're only there to like get a land if you're screwed on mana, or to get the whatever thing is going to get you some sort of advantage in the situation you're in. Sometimes it's a board wipe, sometimes it's that. And speaking of board wipes, Cyclonic Rift is a board wipe, and I only running one other board wipe, which is Ruinous Ultimatum, and it's 7 mana with it's all pips. It's 2 red, 3 white, and 2 black. I'm never casting that unless I can cast it for Wooburg, right? So like I don't see how running a Psych Rift on top of that is any different, but it does have a potential late game combo. So I think this is probably more of a 3 in the sense that the only combo it has is Ilharg plus Metamai, which makes an infinite turn loop, which is fun, and it happens once in a while, and it's also part of the reason why the tutors are in there, because it's like, oh, I drew 1, tutor for the other one, let's get this game over with, because it's already turn 10. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's fully casual. People argue with me that, no, like, you have blah, 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 but it's like, dude, my average CMC is freaking 3.5. Like, it's awful. Like, nobody plays decks with CMCs like this. Like, I've got, 6 1-drops, and then, I've got, on my current, I have 10 drops. I got an 11 drop. I got a 13 drop. I've got 3 8s, 5 7s, 4 6s. And that's not counting the spells. That's just permanent. So yeah, it's pretty up there. So I think this is great as far as being like a super strong casual deck. But if I play this against CEDH players, I'm not going to get anything going before the game's over.
Yeah, you're going to get smoked.
Exactly.
I feel like that's like my Cheerios deck.
Which one is that?
God, it's been so long since I played it. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain.
Oh, right. Yeah, she's always.
I wouldn't consider that a CDH deck anymore.
No,
it's been outpowered so much that it's now just a tier 4.
I agree. I think Elsha kind of took the cake from it, and then there's other stuff that can do similar things. Even Urza by itself is probably better than that deck now.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, it has game changers, a lot of them, but getting to them, it's a lot of drawing.
Yeah.
It can be stopped pretty easily.
That was always a thing, too, that annoyed people about Joy Rose. Like, even in casual, in CEDH, either way, it was just play a thing, draw a card, play a thing, draw a card, play a thing, draw a card, and it would just go forever. And then at the end of a 15, 20-minute turn, you just said, okay, I'm passing. And then lose to the next guy. And you're like, fuck. We sat through all that just 100%. For the next guy to win. Like, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, going from there up into CEDH, you guys should be very familiar with our channel and what we do. That's what we do. I would argue that maybe some of the optimized decks could potentially be that fringe and or like bottom tier CEDH, the tier 2.5s and tier 3 decks that just aren't going to be sitting at the top end of a tournament meta. But again, we'd also probably argue that there could be like a 6th tier, which is, tournament EDH, which is strictly competitive EDH, but has a very specific meta that only changes so much because it's just these are the best things and this is how you do the thing the fastest or the best or whatever. And it's not being gatekept per se because new decks do make it in pretty often. Sometimes they'll win a tournament or they'll get a top 16 or a couple top 8s or top 4s or whatever, and then they kind of disappear because they just don't stand the test of time. Whereas like the true top end has been there for years, the Nagilas and the Thrasios X, Tymna X decks, yada yada, 4-color decks, blah blah blah. So that might be a little bit separate from what we're talking about here with the bracket 5. So it is still part of it. Don't get me wrong. It is still part of the CEDH meta, and you will run into those things just playing casual competitive, I should say. Playing non-tournament games with your friends or at the LGS, you're still going to run into those kinds of decks, so you have to be prepared for those. And if you're going to try and prove that you have something that's worthwhile that might be considered a 4, and you're trying to break it into the 5, you need to prepare to play against those meta decks. So looking at those, familiarizing yourself with the combos, reading primers, all that stuff, and just playing games is going to give you the experience 100%. To like kind of know what's coming and how to build your deck for those threats.
Yep.
We could obviously give a billion examples of CEDH decks. I'm not going to do that. I guess you could send me one that you want people to look at. I could post like my Zerdeck or something.
Deck. Yeah, my Shurkai. It's Shurkai. Polymorph, Hullbreaker, Horror, Tides, Bow Tyrant lines. I mean, and it stacks the crap out of people.
It can win. It can win for sure.
Yeah.
You've
seen it being everyone. If you've watched any of our videos, I'm sure you've seen it being played on the channel at some point.
And like I think at one point, like the Blue Farms were the strongest thing, and then they kind of went, it went more like Grixis with like Roxai and whatnot. But there's other Grixis decks I think that still can compete in our top end still. Kess has kind of fallen out of favor, but I think Evelyn is still really good. There's some others out there, but then like Esper over the last year or so kind of had a resurgence. Has a lot of different decks. That Hashiton is the newest hotness, but Tivit and Zur making a comeback. I actually haven't seen anybody playing Zur except for me, but like fucking A, he has come back in a big way.
You're going to see the decks that you're going to see in this. So you're going to see the Kinnons. You're going to see the Monodas. You're going to see what's another stupidly
Urza's
powerful. Urza's, yeah.
The Ashling, the bird guy got banned, but
Nadu, yeah.
You're gonna
see all the Grixis.
What's the one that Kirk plays? The gunslinger chick.
Stoli.
Yeah, that one's still very powerful. I mean, even decks like you don't see them anymore, but like the Brawl and Shabrazes or the Malcolm Kettises that do like stuff with Glinthorn, those are still really strong. Magda's still really strong. I think Crick is still strong. Kenrith is still out there. There's the meta is still the same, but it just diversifies here and there with like some new commander comes in and shakes it up a little bit. That the dumb starfish mono blue, or it's not mono blue. I think it's whatever. The starfish thing, like we were making fun of like a while ago, like actually has seen some tournament wins. Like it's Azurius as well.
Meta changes here and there, and it depends on where you are in the world. But
I think that does play into it as well. But I think we pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think it's good. I mean, other than the few cards that you might add or subtract from the ban list, or not the ban list, but the bracket list or whatever.
Yeah, and I think we're going to end up revisiting this again. Yeah,
it's going to be changed up. They're going to see about. I did note here, or I did put a note down on my own side here about one of the things that they said, I think it was in the upcoming roadmap part of the discussion. It might have been after that, but about removing ban list cards and putting them in the brackets to see how they fare.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. And we've already mentioned there are some cards out there that might be good for that. There's Golos was one I'd love. Coalition Victory doesn't need to be on the ban list. Like, I think Biorhythm could come off.
Cross Fingers, Mana Crypt being put into just the
Mana
brackets.
Crypt and Jeweled Lotus, I would love. I think Jeweled Lotus was created for this format. It being banned is retarded. It needs to come back. I think they were just panicking and doing like a whole huge like reset on everything, and they really should have just banned Nadu and Dockside and been done with it.
Yeah.
I think we all would have been okay with that. Just the same as like I didn't like the whole Breacher ban, but I was like, I understand. And first instinct knee jerk reaction was like, fuck that, that's stupid. And then a week or two later, I was like, I don't really care. I do miss being able to weaponize wheels, but that's why I don't play them anymore, really, because I can't weaponize them.
I do miss being able to weaponize several things, but unfortunately, I do miss, or I don't miss having to change all my decks to remove all these cards, and try to find something to actually put in it.
That's true. Yeah, having to update the decks was kind of a pain. But if they do, unban any of those rocks, they're going right back in. And honestly, if you're making this bracket system and doing it the way that they're doing, they can very much adjust, like, this guy can have like one more game changer or one less or whatever. And they can adjust things as they see fit. And then some of these cards being on the game changer list, like, just stops them from being an issue.
I want to make a note here that I think some of these people that are in the format panel that are helping this, I'm glad to see some of them. For instance, Gavin Verhey being the leader of this. Yeah. I'm really happy about that. Out of all the people who work at Wizards of the Coast, I think they're probably the most out and out person for this. I like that Josh Lee Kwai is actually on the people there. Since he's spoken up about like the CDH side. I know he doesn't play it really, but he's spoken up for CDH players in the past. And same with Olivia Gilbert Hicks standing up, and she was on the CDH or she was on the rules committee as well.
She was on the CAG and then got promoted. Yeah. Same as Jim from the Spike Feeders. Like, a lot of them were involved. Josh Kwai was on the CAG as well. And yeah, I get it. I didn't like some of their opinions. Kind of why I stopped watching a lot of those people's content, because they just had opinions that didn't align with mine. But that's fine. Having the diversity there is good, as long as none of them are campaigning against things that I want, or because I'm not campaigning against anything in casual. If anything, I think casual
I will say there's like
limited,
one or two people on. There are probably like 2 people on the list. I will not name them just for the fact that I don't want to name and shame, but that I wouldn't want to see on that list. But for the most part, I think it's a pretty diverse panel. And it's
the main thing is that whoever is actually a Wizards employee that's on this, Gavin in particular, but I think there's a couple more that have backgrounds.
Scott Larrabee is on here.
I was going to say, who was other guys that design, and have designed and or worked on sets and gave influence, or not influence, but gave advice on things or whatever in design and playtesting and blah, blah, blah. I know a lot of creators get like, an earlier view at some things and can give some feedback before it happens and whatever. So that's cool. I'm just happy that it's looking like WOTC is taking it seriously and they're not like just saying fend for yourselves or whatever. They're actually like paying attention and doing something. And that's
I like
good.
that they're also just not alienating the CDH players.
Absolutely. And I think that they did in the past, same as Command Zone and some of the other bigger channels that are purely casual. Like, a lot of them have kind of went that way, made derogatory and or negative comments towards the more competitive side of things. That's kind of what turned me off to them. But then they started playing with like Cassius Marsh and some of the other people, like even Post Malone and whatever, and like, oh, they play more competitively. And all of a sudden now they're like, oh, we can cater to these people too. And it's like, yeah, dude, it's fucking play the shit, and you might actually recognize that it's pretty fun. But yeah. Okay, well, I think we have gotten it all done, and it's right about an hour sweet spot where I wanted it to be. So we're going to call it here, folks. Rev, thank you so much for filling in. One of these days, we're going to try and get all of us on here, but, as it is, me and one of the Stream Team guys will be on here. I'm trying to get it back to the bi-weekly releases. I've been doing pretty good for about the last month, so going to try and keep doing this.
Trying to get all four of us is like scheduling a D&D session. It's fucking impossible.
Yeah, I'm working on that too. Believe me, and I got 8 players, so it's going to be fun. However, we have already all gotten together for a different session, so we know that we can all play together still. We have kind of lined up days off and shit. Whatever the case, that's a story for another day. We're done here today. Lots of stuff in the links below, or in the notes below. Lots of links to all of our deck lists that we talked about here. We'll have a link to the article as well, so you can see the. I'll have put the graphics up at some point while we're talking about this stuff. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. If we miss something or if you think our opinion sucks, tell us in the comments. We'll respond to you. Also, we have a Patreon. I actually am in the process of releasing some new merch as well. I got a new submission in for a new playmat and some t-shirts and things. So we'll have announcements for that in the future as soon as it's all said and done. But until then,
come check us out every Tuesday at 7:15 Eastern Standard Time. I'm not sure what that is for your time zone there.
4:15.
4:15 is that
coast? 4:15, 7:15, coast to coast.
Yep, for our live play CDH or PDH once a month on Izlain side of things.
Yeah, we stream every Tuesday, and people come hang out. We don't always have a lot of people hanging out, but sometimes we get some chat going. And this last one, I actually ran some polls and stuff. That was kind of cool. There was enough people in there that it was like, well, let's see what happens. So yeah, I'm trying to get a little more interactive with that as well. But we'll have those coming all the time. I've been trying to get out, the one gameplay a week, and then we've got this podcast, and I'm kind of doing a secondary one. So yeah, lots of content, lots of stuff coming down the pipelines. I'm working on some tokens also, which are looking pretty snazzy despite using AI artwork, but I'm shameless. I do not care. I can't draw, so they look pretty cool. So lots of new stuff coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned. We'll have more information, but until then, we'll see you guys next time.